This is Robin Johnson with Great Mystery, and I'm talking with David Lorimer. David is a writer and editor of over a dozen books, a lecturer, and also the founder of Charter Education Scotland and program director of the Scientific and Medical Network. And David, you started out as a merchant banker. How did you get from a merchant banker to being involved with these wonderful charities and think tanks?
Well, when I was at Stanford University, I read French and economics, but I also read German and philosophy. And the sort of thing that people from my background did is they went into the city, which is a financial area in the middle of London. And so I did that. I got a good job with a merchant bank called Morgan Grenfell. But as soon as I arrived, I realized I was sort of a round peg in a square hole. But I stayed a couple of years while I worked out what I actually should be doing. And actually, I asked myself the question when I was 22, what sort of person do I want to be when I'm 70? And the immediate answer to that was certainly not an ex-merchant banker. And then I went to visit a friend of mine who was teaching at a school and also in charge of the hockey. He was somebody who I'd been at university with. And I thought to myself, well, this is much more the kind of lifestyle I'd like. And in addition, I get decent holidays where I can read and write. And so in 1976, I resigned from the bank. And then I went abroad for a year. And I took with me about 4 boxes of books on all sorts of different subjects. And during that year, I read the whole of those 4 boxes of books. And that really gave me the foundation for what I then went on to do. So I then went to Cambridge for a year and did the education course, after which I got a job in Edinburgh teaching languages. And in 1980, I moved to Winchester College, which is a very well-known boys' school in the south of England, founded in 1382. And I stayed there 6 years. And it was during that time that I wrote my first book over the summer holidays of 1982. And in 1983, I received a letter from somebody called George Blaker from the Scientific and Medical Network. I never heard of this organization, but I was invited to join, and so I did. And then the first time I went over to have lunch with George, he was quite an intuitive person, he said, well, you're just the kind of person we're looking for to take over the network. So I thought, well, that's just the kind of opportunity I'm looking for in the medium term. And so I joined the council, and then in 1986, so just over 30 years ago, I left Winchester and then became director of the Scientific and Medical Network. So that's sort of in brief the trajectory from banking to consciousness and spirituality.
Uh-huh. And what is the focus of the? I know that the Scientific and Medical Network is a think tank, and you also put on programs. What are some of the kinds of ideas that you've been exploring there over the years?
Well, I think it's actually more of a network than a think tank. And it was one of the first networks to constitute itself as a network. And if you think of things now, then people are talking about networks all the time. It's very, very common. But in the 1970s, 1973, when the network was founded, people weren't talking about networks. So it was a very new idea. And the reason that it came about in the first place was that a group of senior people, including the Vice-Chancellor of Surrey University and then Sir Kelvin Spencer, who used to be the Chief Scientist at the Ministry of Power in the 1950s, and George Blaker, an ex-civil servant, and Patrick Shackleton, who'd been the Dean of Postgraduate Medicine at Southampton University, they all had the same concern that young people who were going into science and medicine were being brought up to adopt a materialistic philosophy, and that a materialistic philosophy didn't necessarily need to accompany science. You could have a science which had a spiritual basis and which was open to spiritual experience and parapsychology, psychic experiences. And you could build a broader science on that basis if you could transcend the materialistic limitations of conventional scientific orthodoxy. So that was really what was the driving force, and it still is. So hence our interest in consciousness, mystical experience, near-death experiences, memories of previous lives, and all that sort of area, which suggests that the human being is basically more than just the physical body.
Yes, absolutely. And so has healing been part of the work that you've been doing as well?
Yes, to a slightly lesser extent, because in 1983, another organization span off from the network, also founded by members, called the British Holistic Medical Association. Mm-hmm. But we've done a number of programs and seminars, connected with healing, and we had Beyond the Brain on healing in 1999. This is one of our flagship conferences, Beyond the Brain. It's been going since 1995, every other year, and it was founded with Willis Harman and Edgar Mitchell of the Institute of Noetic Sciences. Mm-hmm. And we did the first 3 conferences with Noetics, and indeed this year, 2017, they're going to be one of our partners in our Beyond the Brain coming up in the autumn in London.
Wonderful. That's great. As we're moving into, this time that seems so chaotic in so many ways, with things like falling apart and coming together in different ways, what do you see for our future?
Well, I've in 1990 I published a book called Hole in One with a W. Mm-hmm. I am a golfer, and I've never had a hole-in-one in that other sense. And it was subtitled The Near-Death Experience and the Ethic of Interconnectedness. And I think what's happening in a very broad sense is that we are becoming more connected. That our technology is connecting us, where we're in danger of losing the personal connection, but I think that's all coming back at a local level. And science and psychology are also giving us pictures of being much more interconnected than we thought we were. And the thesis of Hole in One, it's based on the life review, not only in the near-death experience, but in reports post-mortem of having a life review. And at the deep level, what comes out is that every event has many dimensions. So this event, this interview, is an event for you, and it's an event for me, but we're looking at it from slightly different angles. But if you were to understand the event as a whole, then you would have to understand the experience of both of us. And so, in the sense that we aren't separate, it appears that one of the elements of the life review is that you're able to feel what it was like to be someone else in a significant experience of your life. Now, if this is the case, then it means that we are deeply connected to each other at a level of consciousness which we aren't necessarily aware of immediately, and that therefore, in a sense, we are each other. And if we are each other, then we should behave towards each other in that light, i.e., in the light of the golden rule, that doing to others as you would like them to do to you, loving others as you'd like to be loved. And so that's the kind of metaphysical basis of the ethic of interconnectedness. It's the oneness of the universal mind, if you like, put it in a different context, in which we are all expressions. And so I think that this realization of interconnectedness is becoming much more widespread, despite the chaos that we see around us, and I think will eventually come to the fore. And it means going beyond nationalism, individualism, separatism, atomism, all these ideas that express separation rather than connectedness. I mean, I ought to stress that our individuality is very important because we're all unique expressions of that one.
Mm-hmm.
But ethically, we need to be operating on the basis of planetary interconnectedness.
Yes. It feels, I feel hopeful, even though it feels a little dark at times. You know, it feels hopeful. And I'm wondering, based on what you were saying about the golden rule, if one of the challenges is for people, for each of us to really also love ourselves.
Yes, I've been thinking about that, oddly enough, just over the last 24 hours. And I'm reading a new book on the transformative effects of near-death experiences, which is coming out in the autumn because the author's asked me to do an endorsement for it. And I'm very familiar with this whole area. And people often say, you must love yourself before you're able to love others. And I think thinking about it, it seems to me more a question of self-worth, which obviously implies loving yourself. But it's having a sense of worthiness, which I think is the key. And this is something that almost all of us, I think, struggle with at one level or another. And it's you could say, well, it's part of the human condition. It's part of the human condition to be separate, but then also to evolve beyond feeling separate to this sense of connectedness. So that, oddly enough, another book I was reading this morning had a nice distinction, I thought, between the survivor mind and the connected mind. So the survivor mind is where we spend, a good deal of our time, but the connected mind is far greater than the capacity of our individual survivor mind, and it connects us not only with our surroundings and other people, but also other dimensions of existence.
Mm-hmm. I've been reflecting also on this for a while, and I'm wondering if self-worth and loving oneself isn't related, as you're saying, to connectedness, to our sense of connection with Source. Because I think
yes,
when we
absolutely.
really experience that, we can feel worthy because we're part of the cosmos, we're part of creation.
No, I think that's very, very true. And it's what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross basically said.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the message of a book that she was channeled by her after she died. And that our loss of connection to the source is a central part of this issue. And of course, it's not something that we're mainly brought up to feel, because our society is very secular, and we're really taught to look outwards rather than inwards. Mm-hmm. When in fact, at the end of the day, the inner connection is the most important one, and that applies to our close relationships as well.
Yes. Yes, and I know at the conference that you have coming up in April, you're going to have Fridtjof Capra, and his book, The Web of Life, goes into this too.
Absolutely. Well, I've been following Fritjof's work, since reading the Tao of Physics, 40 years ago, and the Mystics and Scientists Conference, which is the one you're talking about, we're now having this year the 40th anniversary. And so it began in 1978, it's the 40th conference, so I suppose next year will be the 40th anniversary, even though it's the 41st conference. And Fritjof is the only surviving member of the original speaker panel. And so it's great that he's able to take part in this conference and reflect on science and spirituality in the 21st century. So you're right. I mean, his Tao of Physics talked a lot about connectedness, and he's developed this systems view of life, not only in terms of biology, but also social systems. Mm-hmm. And it's fantastic that that particular work, which is his last one, was published by Cambridge University Press. So, very normally rather stuffy press, was persuaded. I know there were some influential people who told Cambridge University Press to publish the book and not think. And we had a launch for it. We sold 90 copies.
Wonderful. That's wonderful, and it's wonderful to see, in these more these older institutions, like some new energy, some new light moving in there.
Well, I think also what's interesting is this year we've got Merlin Sheldrake speaking at the conference, and Merlin is the son of Rupert Sheldrake, who spoke at the conference first in 1983, which is when I met Rupert. So Merlin has his PhD from Cambridge, and he's going to talk about the wood wide web, because he's very interested in fungal patterns, but also the whole notion of the connectedness in the woodland in relation to a more connected view of life. So I'm very excited that he's going to be speaking, and he and his brother, Cosmo, who's a musician, because they're both musicians, they're going to provide the evening musical entertainment, which will be quite something. And unfortunately, we invited Rupert and Jill to come down, as our guests for the performance, but they're both teaching elsewhere that weekend.
Oh, well, it's going to be great. It'll be recorded, won't it?
Yes, it will, absolutely. Yes, and then the material will be available on our website, but mainly to members. And so it's one of the benefits of being a member is that you can access the incredible sound archive that we've got. Indeed, it includes Fritjof's original lecture from the 1978 Mystics and Scientists.
I just reread his book, Uncommon Wisdom. I just finished it this week.
Ah, yes. Okay. Yes, I read that a number of years ago. Yeah.
It was nice to reconnect with the, the ideas that were presented. And Jude Curvin, she's going to be at our Dreaming the Future conference, and she's going to be with you at this conference as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, Jude is a visionary and a very, very good speaker. And her book on the cosmic hologram is coming out, I think, next month. And so we'll be doing a launch for that at the conference.
Yes, and I've been reading some of the advanced material from that book, and it's more than a book, really. It's a whole new view from a scientific perspective of the whole. She calls it the whole worldview, which is I'm really looking forward.
Yes, I think that a lot of people are thinking along these lines these days, and I know that you probably remember she wrote a book with Irving Laszlo. And Irving, of course, has been another pioneer in this whole field, and he's always working on his next book, even though he's 85 this year.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to see these, these new ways of perceiving reality and our relationship with it, starting to become more to the front, more mainstream.
Yes, I still think there's a long way to go because the conventional view, particularly in neuroscience, is very, very reductionist. And they ask the question, they don't ask, is the mind might the mind be independent in some way of the brain? They assume that the brain produces consciousness. So the so-called hard problem is, how does the brain produce consciousness when maybe it doesn't? And so a lot of people are now thinking along different lines. There are two books that came out of the University of Virginia, and one is called Irreducible Mind, and the second one escapes me at the moment. But these are the sort of leading scientific people who know about the wider view, and really arguing that for much more a kind of transceiver view of the brain than the brain producing consciousness. And this is something that was first articulated by William James in the 1890s, and also by a British philosopher called F.C.S. Schiller, who was a source of James's ideas. But when Schiller wrote his book called Riddles of the Sphinx in 1891, he published it anonymously because he was afraid of the reaction of his philosophy colleagues in Oxford.
Mm-hmm. It's nice that those times have changed. Well, maybe they haven't for everyone.
Well, they have and they haven't, and I think we've just been doing we've had a survey done of this is Scientific and Medical Network, 3,000 scientists, engineers, and medical health professionals in UK, France, and Germany, and interestingly, only about 38%, and that's the highest figure, of the respondents think that the brain produces the mind. And so it isn't, in fact, a majority view. That more people than not, about 40%, say it's impossible to know. Mm-hmm. We just can't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a much
so better. I think this, it's encouraging, and also the fact that a minority of the respondents are atheists and agnostics. Mm-hmm. Again, if you were to look at the kind of what you hear on the radio and the newspapers, the story is that if you're a scientist, you'll be agnostic or atheist. It simply isn't true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That there's that spiritual understanding as well. I love the saying that the mind isn't in the body's in the mind.
Yes, and I think that you've got a whole question of the science of consciousness. Do you have a view that consciousness is within science, mm-hmm. or science within consciousness? Mm-hmm. And that's really what our Beyond the Brain series is about. All the evidence that mind, in some sense, transcends the brain.
Yes. Great. Well, it's been lovely talking with you. Thank you. Is there any last thing you'd like to say?
No, I think we've covered some interesting ground. Mm-hmm. And I hope that your listeners will find something stimulating in our conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.